Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast, and we're here today after two not very good results for Derby. To put it lightly, I mean a 4-0 defeat to Chesterfield's bad enough, and then followed up by a 2-1 defeat away at Shrewsbury as well. It's not been great, but there's still loads to talk about, still loads of things to touch on, and I think it'll be pretty interesting as well because, yeah, like we said, there's a lot of stuff going on off the pitch at the minute. So, joining me today to talk all the way through it, we've got Jamie Page. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm good. New mic. I know I missed the episode last week. We were all talking about new mics, so yeah, had to get that in. So that was a pleasant surprise from Amazon last week. But yeah, doing well, thanks.
Good man, good man. The Rams Talk budget knows no bounds. And we've also got Jacob Hackett. How are you, mate?
I'm good. It's also the new mic. I can't wait to test it. I mean, you can't see mine because of my makeshift setup, but it is there. So looking forward to using that for the next however long.
Yeah, for all of you that are listening and can't see Jacob right now. In fact, even if you see him, you can't really tell right now. But he's currently sat. How do you say? You're sat with a chair up against your bed because you don't have a desk.
Don't have a desk in my room, so I'm sat at the side of my bed with a chair from the kitchen, with my laptop on 2 pillows and the mic kind of clinging on for dear life. So if you hear a massive thud at any point, that's my mic hitting the floor.
So there we go. Rams Talk budget, like we were talking about just seconds ago. Right, so what we've got to touch on, I mean, we've got a couple of comments about it already, is the new kit. Now, I've put on Twitter earlier, I'm going to be real, I really don't like it. I think it looks pretty horrible, but I've seen some people say they really do like it, which is, good. It's good to see that people do like the new kits that come out. But Jamie, I mean, I've seen people describe it as another tire track kit. It's mint green, it's got weird lines on it, and then it's got a tiny bit of gold on it, and it's a bit of brown around the cuffs and around the neck. I mean, what do you make of it?
I expected better because I've been looking at Puma releasing for other teams all summer and thinking that we're going to get some nice shirts. I wasn't mad about the home shirt, but I bought it because it was Puma and it felt a little bit retro, not as retro as I thought it would be. But yeah, this one just disappointed. I think for me, there was a big chance with that colorway, you could have done something really, really cool. And I just think they missed the mark. And I know we spoke about it in the WhatsApp group, and Jacob said the fact that the tire marks, or whatever you want to call them, we'll call them tire marks, but the fact that it goes through the ram just feels a little bit weird. So it almost feels like a 5-year-old has been told, he's been given a color palette and said, design a Derby kit, and you've got to have a ram, a Puma logo, and a fan hub sponsor, and there you go. I think it's like a 5-year-old's done it, I think. Not knocking any 5-year-olds out there, any of the 5-year-old listeners. So I'm very sorry about
that. Jacob, what do you reckon, mate?
It's a little bit naff, a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to moan too much about it, but I like what they were trying to do. I think taking the original colours back in is a good idea, but it's only a little bit of brown, only a little bit of centenary gold, and so they're calling it. And I don't know, it just, I think there was a lot more potential. I think Derby probably had 4 or 5 different options. That's the one they've gone for. So I dread to think what the others look like if that was a successful candidate. But it will do. If we see a few goals scored in it, we'll quickly forget about this feeling now, but we'll be all right. We've had better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I was chatting to my dad earlier about it because I have to admit, I was thinking, is this the worst shirt we've ever had? I mean, I've seen some comments already saying that it looks like mint choc chip ice cream. Is that what you want to wear? I don't know. If people like it, that's good. I'm glad people do. But to be honest, I had to scroll through the kits that we've had in sort of the last 20-30 years, and the 1990 away kit, which was if you can picture it's the one with the black and white downward stripes, but the stripes get wider the further to the left hand side of the shirt you get. That was a very strange kit, and then the ram was red. Very weird. But yeah, it's good that some people do like it. It's been really strange. I put the tweet out, and there's been arguments going on with some people going, "Oh, it's the best kit we've ever had," and then the other side is people going, "That is literally the worst kit I've ever seen." So it's always good to see. It's always interesting to see. And like you say, Jacob, if we see a few goals in it, a few wins, I'll probably get one, to be honest, because it tends to happen every year. So yeah, interested, Jamie, coming from you. You are Puma's biggest advocate. I thought you were a Puma rep over the summer when we first announced it, with some of the hype that you gave to them.
Yeah, I feel like I've massively let myself down and let the podcast down and just let my family down as well. I was expecting something special. I was looking at some of the kits they did last year as well. They did a lovely kit for Plymouth that I thought, if we get some gold on our kit, that would look lovely. But yeah, it wasn't to be. We've got a third shirt though, guys. So maybe that's going to be absolutely fantastic, and that can be worn once this season.
I tell you what, I bet it's going to be like last season, where we wear the third kit for every game and never wear the away kit, because that's what ended up happening. Because it's very close to the white. That was my my observation as well. But we will see. We'll definitely see. But right, time to talk about some football, which is not really what we want to do. But we'll start at Chesterfield in midweek. Now, my girlfriend does not watch a lot of football, and she was like, "Oh, I'd really like to watch us play Chesterfield." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? We're playing a lower league team. It should be good. We've had a couple of good results already, and they just absolutely battered us." And at the end, she was like, "Why do you watch this? Why do you do this to yourself?" I mean, there's 2 goals in the first half, awful defending down our left-hand side. I don't know what to say about the free kick. I think it's been talked about enough by Rohan Luthru. I don't know what he was doing. Just seemed to dive out the way of the ball as it came in, straight down the middle. And then the 4th goal was a mistake by Darren Robinson as well, which was quite disappointing to see a young player sort of step into the team and make a mistake. But, it's men's football, and that's what happens. Jamie, I mean, it wasn't a great game. I mean, you can't say many 4-0 defeats are great games, but was there anything that we could take from that, or is it just one of those where we just put it in the fitness and performance bracket and just try and forget about the result?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to go with minutes in legs and just trying a few things out. I think the only positive that I've come away with from the friendlies is that I probably know my strongest 11. If it's a 3-5-2, I think I can pick 10 of the 11 right now.
Yeah, right now.
Well, obviously, if we sign a goalkeeper, it'd be if we sign a goalkeeper, it'd be Vickers. But then I'd play Niambi, Nelson, Cashin. I'd play Wilson on the right. I'd play Ozo and Adams sitting. Kenzo just in front. Left hand side, you've got Osborne. And then up top, you've got Yates. And this is where I think it's one of Mendes Lang. I really want to see CBT up there. I do. I really do want to see him up there. But I'll give it to Mendes Lang for now, because I've got a feeling he's potentially going to get voted in as the captain. So you can't drop your skipper, or can you? I don't know.
He's also better than him in every way.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I just feel if the season started tomorrow, I think hopefully Paul Warne knows his team. So I think that's a positive, but that's probably because there's not been enough people come through the door. And arguably he probably wants people to make the decision hard for him. And at the moment, I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue to pick your starting 11.
Yeah, definitely. And back to the kit chat very, very quickly. I'm just having a read through some of the comments that we've got as well. And we've got one person who's called Smed. I don't know if that's actually your name. But yeah, they said they like the new kit, whereas every other person said they don't, which is interesting. It's good to see. But I mean, Jacob, like I said, with the Chesterfield game, I mean, if you look at the first 2 goals, it comes from players being completely unchallenged down our left-hand side. And when Ben Osborne came in, I know we spoke about the fact that we thought, he'd fill in at left wing back. He's got a lot of experience in that position over the last couple of years. But he's sort of played in the centre whenever he's played. And we had Callum Elder out there, who I don't think was too impressive last season. I thought, to be honest, he probably could have done a lot better for both goals as well. Is it a little bit of a concern that our left-hand side seems so vulnerable?
Yeah, I think so. And I think when Osborne was signed, I think the general consensus was that he was going to play as left wing back. I think a lot of people thought that what we'd brought him in for, myself included. Then throughout pre-season, we've seen him play twice now, both centrally. He's been given the number 8 shirt throughout pre-season, which again kind of indicates that he might be preferred to be used in the middle. Not that you can read too much into the shirt numbers, but it does seem like a player that we've brought in to, control in the middle of the park alongside the other new signings. So definitely needs some work on the left-hand side if Osborne isn't going to play there. Obviously, he can be cover. We know that he could be cover there. We're just yet to really see it in action during pre-season. But yeah, obviously we used Blackett-Taylor at left wing back recently, I think in the last friendly. Elder against Chesterfield didn't quite seem up to the standard. There are a few little good matches. He put a nice ball through to Jackson, I think it was in the first half, that it was just tipped round the corner from the Chesterfield keeper. But I can't think of too many moments beside that were really that notable. So I think there's definitely work to be done on the left-hand side. I think right-hand side we're pretty much covered. But there's quite a few new faces we need to bring in. And it's definitely a problem position, I'd say, at this moment in time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the biggest concerns for me, I mean, apart from the first couple of minutes where we had two chances for Jackson in really quick succession, I have no idea how he didn't score. We didn't really create anything for the rest of the game. And if you look at the Shrewsbury game, we didn't create anything there either. And I think that's got to be a little bit of a concern. I mean, obviously, like we said, results don't matter in pre-season. It's all about getting minutes in the legs, working hard. We know that before the Chesterfield game, they did do 2 sessions. They had a morning session, they had an afternoon session. Their legs were probably ruined by the time they turned up in Chesterfield. So I'm really not surprised that we didn't play well. I'm really not surprised that we looked lethargic. I feel a little bit bad for the fans that turned up to watch their team get smashed 4-0 by a team 2 divisions below them. But I'd rather it happen now than against Blackburn, because that would not be good if that happened. But you mentioned that left wing back position, and Callum Elder, like we said already, I don't think he's that man. Corey Blackett-Taylor, I really don't think is a left wing back. I mean, when we look at players that play in that position, Kane Wilson, great example. Yes, he hasn't been great last couple of games, but when he picks up the ball, he carries the ball really well and he does good things with it. When he's defending, he gets back and he's in the right place, and he works so hard to get up and down that pitch and to keep and carry that ball and to make space for other players as well. You look at Blackett-Taylor, I don't think he's that sort of player. He doesn't really run when it comes to defending. He doesn't really ever make runs in behind, it seems, either. He just seems like one of those players where he wants it at his feet and he wants to carry it and try and beat a player, which is great if you're playing in a forward position. But if you're playing at wing back, it's not quite right. I mean, Jamie, Blackett-Taylor last season, he didn't really pull up any trees. He arrived with, a lot of fanfare, a lot of excitement. And I think only Portsmouth away was the only game where he really looked like a dangerous player. I mean, what have you made of him so far, and where do you think he'll fit into this team?
Yeah, we didn't see enough of him last year. And I think everyone's said ahead of this season that he's going to have a breakout season and the Championship's going to be his level. Not seen enough of him in friendlies to make any form of opinion, but I just don't know where he fits into this side. If we play a 3-5-2, I don't see him starting up front, and I don't see him starting in one of the wing back positions. So how do you utilize him? I'm honestly not too sure. I think there's players that this system is going to work for. Your likes of Osborne, your likes of Adams, and potentially Yates being supported up front. I think that's massive. However, I think there's going to be players like CBT, like Barkhuizen. Maybe Barkhuizen not as much, because I think he could play that kind of central role up front. But there's going to be players that it's not going to work out for. So I'm really not too sure. But I'd love to see him. I think he's last season against Portsmouth, when he was wearing them bright boots and he just got his head down and we saw glimpses. It was almost like a bit of a throwback looking at a player like, I always go back to Jordan Ibe, when we had Jordan Ibe on loan, that when he used to pick the ball up and you just knew something was going to happen. And there's glimpses of that, but I just don't know where he would fit in to get the best out of him. So it's a big decision for Paul Warne. Maybe he sees him as an impact player off the bench. But I have seen in pictures that he's smiling. He looks happy. So maybe he's been promised some game time.
Well, you never know. You never know. I mean, Jacob, we've seen a couple of different systems so far. We've seen a back 4, we've seen a back 3. Jamie alluded to there the 3-5-2 that we played towards the end of last season that was so successful. And I'd be really surprised if we made those sort of changes. I think it worked perfectly with our midfield. But you've got the likes in the middle now of Kenzo Haldmine. You've got David Ozo that we'll talk about in a minute. We've got Liam Thompson as well. We've got obviously Ibu Adams who's returned as well, and we've got quite a few players in that midfield area where I'd say we've probably got 4 pretty strong centre mids, but we're only going to play 2 or 3. I mean, if we play a 3-4-3, which is what we played towards the start of pre-season, 2 of those players will miss out. If we play a 3-5-2, one of those players will miss out. What sort of formation do you think we'll play, and who do you think will fit in that shape?
I think, based off pre-season, I think we could be going towards a 3-4-3. I think if you read into pre-season, then that's what we've been doing a lot more so than the 3-5-2 that we finished last season with. Obviously, I expect Paul Warne to change the system a couple of times throughout the season anyway, not too much. We know that he's quite stubborn in his choices and, the way that he manages. So I think 3-4-3 looks like it's going to be what we start with. As for personnel, I think Houtmain and Adams, for me, would probably be the 2 that start. They both offer something a little bit different to each other. Adams can put the dirty work in. Houtmain can do a little bit of everything by the looks of it. I think he looks like a level above almost. He's a brilliant signing so far. And he's not even kicked a ball in competitive action yet. But I think Adams and Houtmain would be my 2 picks if we were going to be doing the 3-4-3. 3-5-2, I think I'd probably go for Houtmain, Adams and Osborne to be in the middle. But then again, I can't see a player of Osborne's quality coming in and coming to a newly promoted League One side to be on the bench. I'm sure he must have been guaranteed some sort of game time. So yeah, I think if it was a 2, though, I'd go for Houtmain and Adams. That's my long-winded answer to a very simple question for you.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, let's move on to Shrewsbury now. Obviously, Osborne ended up starting in the middle, and I thought he looked okay. I think the thing with Ben Osborne, I think he's just miles ahead of a lot of the other players he's with. His brain, his footballing brain. I mean, when we did our sort of introducing episode with him, it was all about how smart he is. He might not be the best technical footballer ever, but he is really, really smart. You're right, Jacob. You got a problem there.
Orange juice all over my foot, but there's no biggie.
Deserved for not having a desk. But yeah, I mean, Ben Osborne, he's one of those players where he is a quick thinker. He is a smart player. And I think you could tell he was getting frustrated even a little bit in that Shrewsbury game because he played passes and make runs and get into positions and players around him just weren't reading it. And I think that's what happens when you play, top of the Championship and in the Premier League for a couple of years. You're going to have that extra you'll be a yard ahead. And I think Kenzo Haldmine's probably of the same ilk as well. I mean, Jamie, Shrewsbury game. We did actually finally score a goal. Surprise, surprise. It's from a set piece. We were talking before this. We haven't scored a goal in open play since Matlock. We haven't scored a goal in open play against league opposition, which is a little bit concerning maybe at this point in pre-season. But Joe Ward, we know how good his delivery is. James Collins, we know how dangerous he is from set pieces. I mean, it's not a surprise, is it, Jamie, that those 2 were the ones that linked up for the goal?
No, throwing it back to last pre-season where they linked up so well. But I think the concern for me is that I don't see them 2 starting or getting many minutes against Blackburn. If that would have been a Kenzo ball in and Jerry Yates header, I think I would have been a bit more excited about it. But the fact that there's fringe players scoring, and don't get me wrong, these players need to get minutes like the rest of the team, and there's lots of change and you can't judge too much. But I think a lot of people that I know that are kind of neutrals were looking at the game and said to me, how did you kind of lose that after a 4-0 loss? They were thinking that we'd come back and make a bit of a statement. And yes, I know it's pre-season and statements aren't needed. However, it just doesn't look right, in my opinion. And I think Paul Warne, after, you could tell he was frustrated. Now, it might be a magnitude of things. He might be frustrated with no signings, the play, the fact that someone's leaving, I don't know, but he looked like he was quite frustrated, and that worried me as well. So I'm not going to jump on the whole, worn out brigade just yet, like some people have. But there's a bit of concern. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And Jim's put Bradley's header versus Stockport. It's direct from a corner, from open play. The last goal that we scored was Liam Thompson against Matlock from about 25 yards. We've got a comment from Carl McCabe, but who up front is currently better than Collins? Can we answer this, please? I mean, it's a good question. And Paul Warne has said that he wants a new number 9 in. But I mean, if we're looking at overall ability, I'd probably say the majority of them. But the thing is with Collins is that he can have those moments from set pieces. And the way we play percentage football, don't we? We were talking about this in our chat yesterday. We do play percentage football. You know, we play for knockdowns, we play for set pieces. And Collins is so dangerous from set pieces. You know, you put a corner and you put a free kick in, he will be there and he will score you goals. And he seems to be in the right place. The problem is from open play, he's never in the right place. And it's kind of sometimes like playing with 10 men a little bit, which is nothing against him. It's just the way that he plays now at this point of his career. Same with Joe Ward, I'd say. I think Joe Ward in open play offers very little. I don't think he carries the ball very well. I don't think he can defend very much at all, which again, he'll know. He's been a winger for the majority of his career and he's dropping back into that wing back position. And it is a little bit of a worry that, you know, the two players that have linked up to score, as you said, Jamie, they're very unlikely to actually probably start, because where do they fit in? You know, Kane Wilson's always going to play over Joe Ward. His form at the end of last season and the ability that he's shown is really impressive, and it suits the system. Will Joe Ward get a look in? I don't think so either. But Jacob, I mean, it's clear that we need a number 9, don't we? I think Jerry Yates will be a good player for us. I think he'll score goals for us. But do you think we need someone big, physical to sort of upset the mould and get on the end of these 100 set pieces that we get per game?
100%. I think that's what we're crying out for. When I was watching the Chesterfield game, it's the one thing for me that when we're going forward, we do lack that big physical presence, that number 9. We obviously, Jerry Yates isn't that type of player. He's going to be making runs in behind. Caden Jackson looks more of a winger to me. I know he has played centrally, but I think his skill set is probably more catered to coming in from out wide. I'm trying to think when the initial question came through, who is better than Collins up top for Derby right now? I was thinking, well, I agree with you, Jake, in terms of ability-wise, probably most, if not all. But for what they'd actually provide for us, or I don't know. Collins might actually score more goals in this system than a player like Jerry Yates and Caden Jackson. It's too early to tell. I mean, we were told when Jackson signed that he wasn't prolific. We could see for ourselves that he wasn't prolific, but that he'd try hard, he'd battle. Jerry Yates obviously had great form for Blackpool. I think, did he still get 9 or 10 goals for Swansea, and they berated him. So both of them could come really good for us. But in terms of what we're actually going to gain from the player, because we don't have anything to go off for the two new boys so far, I think it would be harsh to say that Collins is the standout worst player from that bunch. But it does highlight to me that if that is the case, that we definitely do need a new number 9 to come in, a new big man. And I think utilising the loan market is probably where that's going to come from at this stage of the transfer window. I know Warren mentioned that he wanted to have 3 new signings in before the Blackburn game, and all of those were supposedly going to be loan signings. So there's a few players out there that fit the bill, and hopefully Warren can persuade them to come and join us.
Well, I certainly hope so. I think it's worth saying that Jerry Yates scored, I think, as many goals. I might be 1 or 2 away, but he scored as many goals as James Collins did last season, and he only played for the first few months. He was a bit part player for the rest of the season. So I think there's definitely goals there. I actually felt pretty bad for him when he was wide open in space and Blackett Taylor had the ball down the line. All he had to do was put an early ball in. All he had to do was put it across the pitch, and Yates was screaming for it, and he just didn't do it. And he tried to stand the defender up and ended up giving away a goal kick in the end. Where we were 2-1 and we were in. And I think for players like Yates, we need that sort of, we need that service for him. He needs to get those balls into the box. He's not going to create something out of nothing. He's not like McGoldrick, in that sense. But what he will do, he will get into the box, he will gamble on chances, and for that I think he will score goals. So yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion. Thank you for the comment. It was definitely one to talk about. But I mean, another question we've got from Chris Frozen, who says, question for the gang, do you think Warne's surprised about maybe how difficult it might be proving to encourage people to sign for Derby, and are you? Now, for me, I think our recruitment's been pretty good. I mean, we managed to sign Kenzo Halbmine, who, was playing for a team that were playing in Europe. He was probably going to sit on the bench there, but he was still in the squad. And Jakob Vidal Zetterström, that we're going to sign from Jurgården, as they're called, so I'm told. I mean, he's playing in the Conference League at the minute, Europa Conference League. So he's clearly playing at a good level. He's playing in Europe in front of packed out stadiums every single week, and he's chosen to come and play in the Championship for Derby. So maybe from my perspective, I think we're actually attracting players pretty well. I think we've probably attracted a couple of players that are maybe beyond where we are as a club right now. What do you reckon, Jamie?
Yeah, I think from overseas, definitely. But I think the British market at the moment is just absolutely mental. Don't think $1 million gets you much. I mean, $1 million would... How much is James Collins worth? Maybe he's worth about 2.5-3 million.
7?
Yeah, something like that. But look, there's a lot of teams that will want to have a look at certain players. We'll be in a similar situation. There'll be players that we send out on loan that Paul Warne would want to have a little look at through pre-season. He's managed to do some good business, and I agree, Jake. I think the recruitment's been really good so far. I like the fact that we're going and tapping up other markets, because I think it's important. I think it's important if we can get a player that is a 7 out of 10 that's going to cost us 400k rather than 4 million. We should do that, and we should have some gambles and take some risks. But I definitely think we need a number 9. But I don't think, for me, I don't think that comes from the loan market, because if it's a loan signing, my thoughts on that is that they're going to be of a younger age. And I think if you're looking at a target man, I think one of the key things for a target man is using that experience, being able to use their body right. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think there's many 6 foot, 12 stone, 13 stone, 19-year-olds in the Prem that know where to put their body. So, yeah, I'd love a Shevsky Kuchi kind of player to come in and have Kenzo off of him like a prime Thomas Schifka. That would be my hope. And look, at the end of the day, I've said it on the podcast when I was last on. For me, it's all about survival. It's probably not going to be pretty, but I think you've got to have a plan B if plan A isn't working. And as we've seen last season, plan A didn't always work. So, and for the Championship, we probably need plan B and plan C. So Collins can be plan C.
So plan A is long ball, and then plan B is long ball, and then plan C is long ball.
Collins.
It's
Collins.
Collins on the end of the long ball. Is that? Yeah, I like it.
Exactly.
No, that sounds good. That's exactly what we want to hear, isn't it? I mean, another thing that we've kind of talked about already, Jacob, a little bit, is Kenzo Halbmine. I mean, I think in every game he's played, he's looked better than everyone else we have. I thought when he came on against Shrewsbury, changed the game. His pass through to Blackett Taylor. I'm sorry, Corey, I keep digging you out, but I don't think he had his best game. But he played a lovely reverse pass into Blackett Taylor, who had a touch like a small moon. And it just bounced away from him. I was like, for God's sake. But then he played another lovely ball later on to create a chance as well. I think he's just got that vision, hasn't he? And I think he just brings something, like we've said already, that we just don't have. Yeah,
he's definitely brought something else to the table, hasn't he? I think you can tell the quality. He's got 70-odd appearances in the Eredivisie before joining Derby. And you can tell he's been training and playing at quite a high standard for his career so far. And he really does stand out in that team. He really stands out, and he's one of the players that when you turn up at Pride Park next season, you're going to be looking forward to watching him play. And I think he offers a little bit everywhere for me. He has like his foot in every box is not a saying, is it? My brain is really trying to think of a saying.
In every box.
He's very good at a lot of things. I took a journalism degree, by the way, but he's very good at a lot of different things. And in the middle of the park, obviously, he can carry the ball forward really well. He's got excellent vision, even defensively. He knows how to, use his body, throw his body about. He has got a good tackle on him. Not like that. He can tackle very well. And yeah, I think it's probably best to hand over back to one of you before I say something gets me cancelled. Oh dear.
Oh,
can tell
it
I'm
took
new
me
to
a
this,
second. It took me a second then. It took me a second.
Oh dear.
Back onto the number 9 talk. Adam Lilly's calling for Chris Martin. Welcome back, Chris Martin. That's exactly the man that we need. I don't know where to go from there.
No.
Jamie, I mean, we mentioned him earlier, David Ozo. I actually, maybe a little bit unrelated, I felt really bad for Cal. Callum on the podcast did a great video with the Palace Way talking about David Ozo. If you've not watched it, please go and see it. It had about 800 views after probably a couple of hours, and then we lost 4-0 to Chesterfield, and no one's looked since. So I feel so bad for him. So yeah, if you haven't watched that one or listened to that one, please do, to make Callum smile again. I don't think he's smiled since Wednesday. But I mean, he's an interesting player, isn't he? We saw probably, I wouldn't say the best of him, but we saw some of his good attributes, Jamie, against Shrewsbury. He's like Ibu Adams in the way he snaps into tackles. He's so quick to engage, which is really good to see. I mean, you talked about already what your midfield 3 would be. You know, you said you'd have Adams, you'd have Ozo, and you'd have Haldmine just sat just in front. I mean, obviously, we're probably not going to play possession football. I think that's been made obvious by the last 2 years. But having 2 players that can win the ball back like that's surely got to be a benefit for Derby.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we didn't have last year. That's what we were calling out for before Adams came in, and that's what Adams give us. So if we've got 2 players in there that can do the dirty work, and give it to a creative player like Haldmine, then yeah, I think that's going to look really good on the eye, a lot better than potentially it was looking last year when we were just. I think we knew last year that we didn't have the legs in there, and I think we were kind of bypassing the midfield at times. And there'd be certain games where Birdie would step up or Hurahan would have a better game, but there wasn't enough in there for me. And I was surprised that we managed to cling on to that second place. I'm not going to lie with that midfield, but yeah, I think he looks like a really good player. He's obviously highly rated at Palace. We seem to have almost struck a bit of a relationship up with Palace over the past couple of years. I think they may trust us with him, so let's see what we can do. But he comes highly rated. He's obviously featured in that City game where he seems to get a lot of plaudits. So it's time for him to play week in, week out. And that's the reason why I think we'll play a 3, is because I can't see Haldmine, Adams and Ozo not starting. And I can't see Osborne not starting. I think you've got to shift Osborne out to the left. I think naturally that will just happen over time. But yeah, a fantastic talent. And let's hope we can keep him injury-free and get the best out of him. I don't think there's a recall clause, is there? You might know that, Jake.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Hopefully not.
It wasn't mentioned. I don't think it was mentioned in a signing thing. So yeah, maybe not.
But interestingly, I saw that Oxford have been linked with Malcolm Ebiowe today as well. I mean, isn't that a player we'd love back? I'd snap Palace's hand off to get Ebiowe back in the
Where
fold.
would he fit in? I think he's just he plays the same role Blackett Taylor plays, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he does. And that's a good point, but I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm just thinking about Malcolm Ebiowe in a Derby shirt and how I'd love him back. But yeah, it's interesting, and I think, like Jacob said, I think there's obviously a space for a few more loan signings, and potentially these loan signs that are coming in, Ozo and Jerry Yates, will play a big part potentially in keeping us in the division. So let's get some more through the door, and let's make sure they're the caliber of Yates and Ozo.
Yates. Oh yeah, he is on loan. I almost forgot then. I keep forgetting that he's only on loan. We haven't signed. I tell you what, I think we will sign him. I have a big feeling that we'll sign him end of the season, regardless of how the year goes. Hopefully, it's for good reasons. I mean, we've mentioned him already. I'm going to say his name again because I feel so impressed with myself every time I say it. But Jakob Vidal Zetterström, he's massive. We talked a little bit about him last week. We've recorded an episode actually with a supporter of Jurgen. It was really, really good, really interesting. Just haven't signed him, so none of you have seen it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out in the next few days. There's a few complications around his signing. Derby have been said to have agreed a deal. Everything's agreed with the player. Everything's agreed with the club. The fee is meant to be around 1.5 million. I don't know whether that includes add-ons or not. I'm sure we'll find out later down the line, which isn't too bad for an international goalkeeper. And as well, I mean, he's playing in the UEFA Conference League, that we've already said. He played last week and he's going to play again on Thursday upcoming. I think this is the end of, or the start of the window where they can register new players in the squad. So hopefully this Thursday is the last game he plays for Jurgen, and then he can sign for us on the Friday. We won't know. We know how Derby are. We'll probably sign him on the Thursday and not release him until the Monday, because that's how we operate them for some reason. But Jacob, you know, we've talked about goalkeepers. Josh Vickers has never really inspired me too much. I think he's a solid keeper, and I think he's a great option to have as a number 2. But as a number 1, I don't think he's the answer. I mean, signing a 6'6" international goalkeeper who absolutely loves football, I mean, that is the sort of player we want to sign, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly sounds good on paper. I think, yeah, everything I've seen about him looks really promising. I mean, he's an international goalkeeper. He's only been capped once by Sweden, but he's been capped, and that's what matters. Playing in Europe as well, you know, he's got a really impressive track record for Djurgården, if I've pronounced that anywhere.
I have no idea anymore.
As you have. But yeah, I mean, he's got a really impressive track record, and to have quit football, obviously he had the head injury, quit football for a period of time, came back and was one of the best goalkeepers in the league. Also, I've been told anyway. I've not been an avid watcher of the Allsvenskan. But no, I think it would be a brilliant addition. Obviously, Vickers was brought in last summer. There were question marks over what that meant. Was he coming in to be number 1? Was he coming in to be backup? A lot of Rotherham fans were very adamant that he was going to come in and be number 1, saying he was one of the better goalkeepers in the Championship, was what they were saying last summer. So that could have been a joke looking back, or they might have meant it and it just not quite worked out. But we obviously need a goalkeeper or 2. Luthra been on trial, not really been amazing, but then there's not really a lot he can do other than make saves. And that one mishap against Chesterfield that's the one that stands out. I think that's unfortunate, but I think he's only a young lad, so he'll come in and probably be 3rd choice. Vickers probably be 2nd choice, and hopefully I'll just call him Jacob. We can get Jacob in from Sweden, and we'll move forward from there. I think with a 6'6" goalkeeper, and you're always going to feel confident, aren't you?
Yeah, you'd certainly hope so. I mean, yeah, it's the sort of signing we need to make, isn't it? We desperately need a goalkeeper, so let's hope Derby can get that over the line. And we're sat here next week celebrating signing a few more players, including, as you said, he's only got 1 cap. That's all you need. You're an international goalkeeper. You've made it. So let's keep it that way. Also, other news: Jake Rooney out for 4 months. Tear meniscus in his knee. Is that about right? Is that the right thing? I can't remember.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, I feel like that'd be really random if if I just sort of made that up. But no, tore meniscus in his knee. I think this is a bit of a concern. Obviously, he has a pretty severe knee injury. Comes back, plays a couple of games, and immediately, you know, has another serious knee injury. It's a little bit of a worry. We saw it with George Thorne, is obviously the most, you know, clear answer. Sometimes when the ACL injuries and knee injuries follow you, it's hard to get out of that cycle, because when you work your way back up, by the time you've made it there, you're sort of pushing and pushing and pushing, and it goes again. And it's quite sad for him. So yeah, let's hope that he recovers soon, and all the best for him. But we have actually made another signing. Jacob picked this up because I'd actually completely forgot we'd done this. Freddie Turley, he's 18. I did a little bit of research. He's got 26 appearances for Bray Wanderers last year. He's on loan from Shamrock Rovers, who, if anyone that's around my age used to play FIFA, they were the lowest ranked team on FIFA for a good while. And they used to have ex-Derby striker Gary Twigg up front as well, which was always funny to see. I think he'll probably end up being a similar signing to Ebioe and Plange. The way they came in as academy signings. They played in the under 21s, but then ended up making that step up into the senior team. I mean, he's captained Ireland at the under 17 Euros. He played at the under 19 Euros when he was only 17 as well. I mean, that's the sort of player we need to sign, isn't it, Jamie? You know, we want to bring in young players. We want to reestablish that academy that we've had for so many years. And when we've seen a few players come over from Ireland, the likes of Jason Knight and they've made a huge difference. And can Freddie be the next one?
Yeah, you hope so. And you stole my thunder there, because I was going to mention Jason Knight and Festy also came over from Ireland as well. So it's worked, and if this is a player that can come over and, like you say, perform well, he will get his chance for the first team. And we've seen over the course of the last couple of seasons that there is a chance there. You have to be good enough. Of course, you have to be good enough, but it's a good environment to play your football and start to get in Paul Warne's mind, or whoever the manager is. So, yeah, interested on that one, and always interesting when it's a picture and a video opposed to just a bit of text on the website. So I think potentially the Academy were quite pleased with this addition. So, yeah, good luck to him. I hope he comes in and does well. And yeah, hopefully we see him sooner rather than later, I guess. And if he can go on and do what Ebioe and Plange did in the Championship, then I'm sure we'd have signed a very good player.
Then Crystal Palace have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe they already know this was happening. Like Ozo comes to us, that they get first refusal on the new kids. So yeah, maybe that's them thinking one step ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jacob, just to finish us off, I mean, we've talked about it already. Warne said he wants 3 loan signings. If you're going to pick 3 positions, what would you pick?
Striker, left back / left wing back, and probably another winger. I know the formation comes into question there, but Warne, well, I'm not sure if it's Warne himself or if it was reporters have said that we're in the market for a winger. So I know Karamoko Dembele has been mentioned a lot. He was mentioned again just before the recording. I don't know if you've seen, but he was mentioned just before the recording in the same thread where we found out that we were also in for Ian Poveda, who's gone to Sunderland now, but apparently we were in for him. So we're clearly still looking for someone to play out wide that maybe can also drift in central. It feels like there's a certain profile there of a winger that Paul Warne is looking for. But yeah, I do think that we need another winger who might be able to drift in, left wing back / left back, and striker.
Well, it's interesting because I know that Ian Poveda's agent was really pushing for him to get a move to Derby just before the transfer window opened. So interesting that he's gone to Sunderland. I wonder what happened there. But right, there we go. We're done. It's all over. It's all done. Hopefully, this is the last episode of back-to-back defeats we ever do. I don't think it will be. I really don't think it will be. But thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. If you've got different opinions, brilliant. That's what you like to hear. Let us know in the comments. We love to hear what everyone says and have a good discussion. It's what makes football football. If you did enjoy on Apple Pod, Spotify, and if you're a listener rather than a watcher, please do as what Jamie's doing right now. You can't see it if you're listening, but he's got his hand up with a 5. Please do rate us 5-star.
For the audio viewers.
For the audio viewers, it does actually make a genuine massive difference. So if you did enjoy, please do that. Right, there we go. Perfect. Job done. Back-to-back defeats. Let's make it back-to-back wins. Barnsley and Real Valladolid to come. And we will see you next week. So it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
There we go. There's only 3 of us today. It's a lot shorter. We'll see you soon.